Welcome. I am so excited to introduce you all to Faith Clarke, who is an organizational health and inclusion specialist. And she works with organizations that are committed to healthy workplace culture. She helps people by creating systems that integrate human motivation. And we share the belief that the strength of your team is dependent on your work ecosystem. Faith and I met online quite a few months ago and decided to get together to have a series of conversations around workplace rituals and the benefits of belonging, how that decreases turnover. Our conversation goes into a lot of really interesting areas. So I'm excited to bring this conversation to you. So thank you so much for joining me today, Faith, to have this conversation about rituals in the workplace. We wanted to first just start out by talking about what workplace rituals are and why are they important. I think, sometimes we think of rituals as spiritual things or things that don't really actually belong in the workplace. So I'm curious to hear your take on why rituals are important at work.
Yeah, I think, Candace, first of all, I think one of the things that struck me with you as I watched some of your content is that you talk about HR stuff and employee stuff and salary stuff, but you also talk about the practices that you use as an employee of yourself to help yourself be well, and I one of the things that as a mom that hit me really early in my parenting journey is that if I'm not habitually doing particular things, it's a fast track to burnout and insane. It's a fast track to bad mommy, Yeah. And so I think that when we think about the organization as a body, just like we think about ourselves as a body, then organizational routines are really critical to the body's health, the organization's health. And I think what happens is that because we don't design those, then we just have the ones we have. Some of the ones we have are just happenstance, and they're not necessarily nourishing. So one of the things, and we'll talk about some specific rituals overall, but I think, when you think of your college days, your sports teams, your the spaces we've been in where we feel excited to be in, and we know that these are our people. Those spaces had ways that brought us into the space, ways that oriented us to the space that were celebratory and exciting, and then ways that we left, whether it was positive hurrah or, something that was negative. So they have these rituals that are along a timeline. And I wonder what it would look like if we were really deliberate in our teams and in our businesses to have rituals that helped people know, I'm here. Why are we here together? What are we celebrating? What are we working towards? Not just the meeting. Okay, so hello, we're, but really make an exclamation mark on the thing that we're doing together.
I think a lot about work as business as an opportunity to create a culture, and that having ways of bringing people into the business and things that we're doing together throughout the course of the year in the business, and ways for people to leave, like you were saying, creates the substance really of what that culture is. And it's also in our conversations that we have just every day.
When you think about what culture is really the way we think and the way we feel and the way we act on repeat, right? And to get any kind of repetition, whether it's my morning coffee or it's my yearly celebration of both Thanksgiving and my son's birthday in the same week, it is about, putting it on that kind of repetitive schedule. That's what makes it into culture. And so our routines and our rituals are the markers of our culture.
And so why is that important at work? What does that help like, why would a business person decide to spend time on doing this when there's, profit to worry about, and there's all the threats happening in the marketplace? Why is this something that they should be spending time on or think about spending time on?
I think the first question that I'd ask just before that is, what are the existing rituals already in your workplace? Because let's not be like naive. Rituals already exist. So although we're having a conversation about rituals, we're having a conversation about designing the rituals versus having the rituals just happen. So there may be a ritual in the workplace already of silence when the boss speaks. Like we don't interrupt the boss or whatever. Or there may be a ritual around taking the new person aside and telling them what's really going on around here, because they know that the onboarding isn't helping. So rituals already exist in the workplace. The question is, do they serve the big goal? And the second thought that I would have as a CEO in terms of why rituals is that, well, unless we're not doing business with humans, like humans create rituals everywhere we go. There are no two humans or more together where rituals don't exist. So creating community and designing culture is a part of how we do work together. And I think what happened when we were just kind of moving into industrialization and designing work that way is that we weren't designing work for humans. We're designing work for profits, and we're using an industrial machinery model to do it. When we start to think about what if our biggest and most important resource are humans, how do we help humans live well together and work well together? Well, it's about community. It's about the collective. It's about the 1+1. It's about synergy. 1+1 becoming 15. That's what happens when humans get together. And that connection between humans that helps them to be able to improvise and adapt and be resilient together and problem solve together. Those connections are built in the rituals that we have with each other. So I think that one, let's design it. Let's not make it happenstance. And number two, let's know that employee well-being, worker well-being, human well-being is dependent on the routines that we have together as humans to help us, just feel effective in our bodies and in the organizational body.
So I'm hearing this distinction between the rituals that we have by default that aren't actually designed and intentional because they happen anyway, and then crafting something that creates community and creates space to bring people together. And if we want to talk about, I think one of the first ones that you mentioned that a person experiences as they're coming into an organization is onboarding. So what makes a positive community-oriented onboarding experience for someone?
Well, I think again, part of how I look at onboarding, because onboarding can just be a business process, right? We need to get all the logins to work. We need to make sure the payroll is sorted. And if we see it that way as just this thing with a list, a checklist, then according to the studies, I think I certainly experienced this. People don't necessarily feel like they know what they should be doing. They know who they should be connected to. They know who they can ask questions, and they know how to guide themselves to learning this new work home. At the end of onboarding, those things aren't checked off. So not to mention the fact that what's the startling number? Like something like 80% of people don't feel like their onboarding is helping them do work well, right? So,
and I've had that when I've started a job where it's like, oh, here's this, and then just figure everything else out. Like you don't even meet the people that you're going to be working with. You just have to kind of figure it out.
I was given like a bunch of videos, like watch these things, click through, and and then of course you can cheat the system, just skip through to the X, answer the question well, and you've moved on. So I do think, though, again, when we think about communities, it's like, what helps people connect to community? Some people need a guide. Some people need to have a sense of how to prioritize the information so that they can take in what they need now and know where to get what they need later. Some people actually need the big picture first so that they know where they fit in. And an onboarding ritual that, first of all, isn't adjustable, responsive, and kind of customized to the actual human being integrated into community isn't going to be effective. So part of the design has to be, how do we create rituals that do like websites do, that respond to the size of the screen, that respond to who this individual is? And then how do we design onboarding rituals that's not just onboarding the one new person, but onboarding the whole organization to the new person? Because sometimes this new person is made to be it's their responsibility to make themselves fit in. And I was like, but actually, if this person is coming onto a team, the team is actually a new team because this new person is here. And again, when we think about our sports teams and things like that, that's part of what happens in the various rituals that happen. The team becomes this new entity because of this new person. So how do we design connection activities that help people know who they are in relation to the big picture, know how they can connect with the essential information, know who they can go to, and also that listens to who that person is and knows like what's the best way for them to answer that question without overwhelming them and overwhelming the poor manager, who some often feels they have to leave this thing and go and take this person through. I think repurposing some of our team meetings and organizational meetings so that we have regular reorienting of ourselves as a community as part of onboarding would really be more effective than so much of this checking things off a list.
I love that you brought up team meetings because I think some team meetings can be so operationally focused, and it's like, these are all of the things that we're doing and we need to align all of our actions so that we all like get to the same goal at the same time. But there's such an opportunity when everyone is together in the room to build that community and to get to know each other. There was a particular place where I worked where that was really the focus of the team meeting, was to share the work that each person had been doing. A different person led the meeting every single week. A different person was putting together the agenda. They were presenting on work that was important to them. The director was presenting on, all the things that were strategically important to the department. And it just really brought everyone together. I think a lot of people really enjoyed that workplace because of how that team came together. How does that work with different sizes of teams? Like if you have a small team versus a large team, how do you kind of customize that to all the different people that are part of the team?
It's very hard if you are a team of 5 and then but tomorrow you become a team of 10. I think it's much simpler. Well, it's not simpler, but it's like what happens. I'm going to use a ton of parenting analogies. It is what it is. It's simpler if you have one child at a time. And I think what happens is that you build the ability to say, how do we include this one person into the routines and rituals that we have? How do we notice the ways this person may be experiencing what we currently do as barriers, as a barrier to their participation, and then shift things around so that other people don't have barriers? How do we strategically figure out this both and? And once we've built the muscles to thinking about what's the both and, or as another friend of mine says, what's the intersection of all of the people's ways of being, so that people with differences, people whose ways of participating may seem different than ours, don't even have to ask for any help or support. So how do we both layer in help and support as well as build along the intersection where everybody has all the stuff in common? I think those are the muscles that we need to be building together as a community to be able to have a large team and then say, okay, there's 20 of us and we're used to having an outdoor activity as part of our offsite. But because of the size of the team, here's what we're going to do. We're going to offer 2 options. And one is going to, include something strenuous, and the other one is going to, Faith is going to be with the other group, watching the people do something strenuous. And, when the team is larger, we kind of have this sense of who's on the team and what are the kinds of things that will not have people feeling like they stick out. Because if we go kayaking, then I'm going to stick out.
Yeah. Faith and I have put together a couple of resources for you all. The first one is a way to estimate your turnover. It's a turnover calculator, and the link for that is below. The other offering is from Faith, and that is a workshop for you and your team around ways to reduce turnover and how to get at the root cause of it and make it stop. So the links to those are below. There are a couple of questionnaires, and we would love to hear from you if this has sparked an interest in you and might be something that you would like to work on.